Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. We're just going to get right into this one because I want to get straight to the point. These are some different uses of say. The word say, this gets a lot of people messed up, and it's because one of the main reasons that you get confused and stressed out about this word in Spanish is because you're looking for a direct translation to English, and it doesn't exist. It's not going to exist. As soon as you get comfortable with being uncomfortable with that fact, you're going to get better at the use of say. So instead of trying to understand the word say, because there's books this thick on it, native speakers don't even know how to explain it, don't even know what it is or means. So the more that you just stop trying to understand it so much conceptually, and you stop looking at all these grammar rules, and you just look at how to use it and in which situations you are using it, like when is say triggered, you're going to do a lot better with this concept. So the first and most common one is when we use it with reflexive verbs. Reflexive verbs, I call them personally mirror verbs because they are verbs that you do to yourself. Like a lot of times, this is the most classic example, and this is not a video on reflexive verbs, so I'm not going to go super into it, but you've got a verb like cepillarse, which means to brush oneself. It means, because you put that say there, and say is only for certain subjects. I'll explain that in a moment with reflexive verbs. But if I say he brushed his teeth, it would be él se cepilló los dientes. But the second that I say I brushed my dog's teeth, it would be cepillé los dientes de su perro. I said su perro. I'm just gonna change this to cepillo, and we're gonna say, just to keep it consistent, he brushed his dog's teeth. Él cepilló los dientes de su perro. And if you notice, the word say is no longer in this sentence because it doesn't apply anymore, because this is no longer reflexive, because he's doing the action of brushing now to someone else. In this case, he's doing it to his dog and not himself anymore. And so there's different verbs like this that are, more common to be reflexive than not reflexive, and a lot of times it's a lack, or it's just a matter of memorizing them and practicing them a lot. So that's the first use. And with reflexive verbs, you're going to put one of these in front of the verb that you're conjugating for, depending on the subject. So me would be for yo, like I brush my teeth would be me cepillo. You brush your teeth would be te cepillas. Now se, though, is used for any third person thing. It could be él, ella. It could be in English what we like to say it, when there's just a subject that's not like specified, or just something in general. Ellos, so for plural as well. Ellas, also usted and ustedes. So ustedes means you all. And then nos would be for nosotros, and then os would be for vosotros if you're using, vosotros form in Spain. So that's the first use, is reflexive verbs, and you may have already known that. Now, when say can get complicated is when it comes to all these other situations that we're going to talk about. So we've also got doing something that's called the impersonal say. If I look over here a lot, I'm kind of looking at some different notes that I have here, and they call it the impersonal say, but what this really means is I like to call it just talking about things in general. They call it impersonal say because you're not really talking about something or a subject specifically. You're just talking about something, again, in general. So I like to just say in general. Now, an example of this would be, how do you say that? And that's one of the first things you learn in Spanish is cómo se dice. And if you're wondering, like, why isn't it cómo dices eso, which would be more of a word-for-word translation of how do you say that, cómo dices eso. Why is it that a lot of people say cómo se dice eso? And you can say this. You can say cómo dices whatever. That's perfectly fine. It's not wrong. But we do this because we like to talk about things in general. How does one say that? And that's one of the best ways of explaining this topic is how does one verb, how does one do something? And all you got to do is put se followed by a verb and the third person conjugation. Another way of explaining that is just like the él or ella form, right? Which is why we said dice in this instance. In Spain, one lives well, or another way of translating this in a more natural English form would be you live well in Spain. But this is when we're not talking about you specifically living well in Spain. It's just saying, yeah, in Spain, it's a good quality of life and one lives well. So all you got to do is put se here, put the word for lives, which is the verb vivir in the third person. Se vive well in Spain. Bien en España. So you'll start noticing different examples like this, just with different verbs. Like you could say, in this neighborhood, I can't spell today, neighbor. I think it's how you spell neighborhood. Neighborhood. In this neighborhood, houses are sold cheap. So we can say, en este vecindario, which is pretty straightforward to put together in this neighborhood. Las casas. Now, how would you say that? What's the verb, right? We're trying to say houses are sold cheap here. One sells houses here that are cheap. So it's kind of talking about things in general. This is also kind of getting into a subject called the passive say, which I don't like to put a lot of these labels on it because you'll see things like the impersonal say and the passive say. I don't ever think about that when I'm speaking in Spanish, because how do I like to learn Spanish? Whether it's a complex grammar rule about the subjunctive or conceptual stuff about reflexive verbs and say and passive say and impersonal say and reciprocal say is another definition they throw out there. I just want to know, how do you use it? Like, I don't have time to be thinking in my head, oh, is this the case of the reciprocal say? Is this the case of the impersonal or the passive say? No, I don't have time for that, and that's not realistic. Native speakers don't do that. You don't do that in English. So all I'm going to do is say las casas. What's the verb? Vender. So I'm going to put it in that third person form, and I'm going to say se venden. It's with an N because it's plural, by the way, but it's still third person. So I should probably put, like, the ellos form here as well. Se venden casas económicas. I'm trying to get better about putting these accent marks in my videos. Again, this is a watered down version, I would say, of this sort of explanation. I'm trying to just show you how to use it in a practical way. Obviously, you can look up more complex and detailed grammar rules and examples and whatnot, but at the end of the day, why? Why overcomplicate it? I'm just trying to show you how to use this stuff in the most practical way possible. That's how I always like to teach Spanish, by the way. So those are some things that you'll start noticing native speakers use a lot. They'll use it in that those ways. Now, there are other examples, which is called the accidental say. I like to think of this as nothing in Spanish is ever your fault, because it's kind of like the accidental say. You might have seen different phrases like se me olvidó, se me cayó, se me ocurrió, se me perdió, and this means I forgot, this means I dropped something, this means it occurred to me, this means I lost something. And so why is it said this way? Because I forgot. You might have said, I thought it was just olvidé. And you can say that. Why is it se me perdió? I thought that I lost something was perdí. And you're right. The difference is this takes away the blame from you. You are literally saying here, in this example, where's my little drawer? Okay, I can't. There we go. Sorry. Remember, this thing lost itself. Another way of saying that is got lost. So we're kind of coming back to that reflexive verb example. And then this means just to me. So this thing to me got lost. Again, this means that I lost it. Like it was my fault. I was the one who did this. This is saying that this thing, whatever it is that I lost, got lost, and I was a victim of that. And I've got another video on this, by the way. But just so you know, the same thing with this. Why is this I dropped? Because this verb cayó is from the verb caer, which means to fall. So we're saying this thing fell itself to me, and I was a victim of that. Again, a lot of times with these phrases, they're just common. There's not like a million of them. There's like a dozen or so that are the most common. And what's cool is that you can just memorize these, and you can make them their own, make them your own. This is not saying I forgot. That would be olvidé. That means that it was my fault I forgot something. This means it slipped my mind. This thing got forgotten, and I was a victim of that. I was the indirect recipient of this action. That's literally what it means. And for other subjects, again, I've got different videos on this, but se le perdió would be he or she got or lost something. Se nos olvidó would be like, hey, we forgot this thing. And so I'm not going to get into those details, but just so you know that, hey, that's one of the uses of se as well. A lot of times se, you can kind of think of the word got or even like get. And that's why if you say se perdió, it technically means it loses itself or it lost itself, because this is in the past tense, but it really means it got lost. Se levantó is he got up, or he gets up if it's present tense. So there's some verbs where the second that you make it reflexive with the word se, it implies that the word got or get in English is there. And that's where you kind of have to go back to, it's just the way that it is, and don't try to make too much sense out of it. Just know that this is how you use it, and then move on. Don't try to think too much into it. The last the last use of it is when we put it before lo, la, los, and las, replacing le. What does this mean? If you've ever seen celo, cela, celos, or celas, then you're really replacing the word le with se, and then lo, las becomes it or them. I'm going to show you how to make this a little bit easier, though. This means that there are two objects in a sentence at the same time. So we've got it and him, her, or them, right? It can be plural, so maybe those or something like that. But anyways, the second that you say that you see him, her, them, one of those, and the word it, you automatically are going to think celo, automatically, right? Because se is for him, her, or them, again, replacing the le, because we can't say le los in the same sentence. It just doesn't sound right. So we say celo, and then lo is depending on what type of object it is. It was a feminine object or a masculine one, or masculine plural or feminine plural. So an example, I bought it for her. And we're going to assume that we're talking about la cama, a bed, which is a feminine noun. So we've got it and her in the exact same sentence, which we automatically know is going to trigger se lo. But now what we have to do with lo is we have to assign it the right gender. And we've got la cama, so it's se la compré. Se la compré is I bought it for her. That's it. That's how in Spanish we get a sentence that's 3 words. For a sentence in English that's got like 5 or 6 words. I bought them. And we're not sure about the gender. It could be something in general. Maybe it's watches, which would be a masculine word, but it would be se los compré. And there's more in-depth tutorials on this, but I think that if you get this concept down, I think that just this explanation by itself will help you so much to where if you want to dive more into it, if you want to do more practice examples, now you have a good guide as to how to do that. And that's it with Say. Like, that's the main thing when it comes to Say and how to use it. So I really hope that you enjoyed this. And if you really do like the way that I teach, stick around real quick. I've got a free training that I want to talk to you about. All you've got to do is click on the link in this description of the video, because I've put together a free training you can sign up for today. I'm going to show you my 3 strategies to accelerate your Spanish learning, my methodology that allowed me to become fluent in Spanish within a year, and how you can do the same. At the end of that free training too, you also hear more about my full Spanish program, A to Z Spanish University, the most in-depth, comprehensive Spanish program that I've made. All the videos are explained in a very straightforward way, just like you see in this video. It's the only Spanish course you need to become fluent in Spanish and accelerate the time that it takes to do that. So I talk about that program at the end of the free training, and the benefit of signing up for the free training to hear about it is you get a special discount for a limited time as well. So again, click on the link in the description whether you're interested in the program or not. Check it out. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if you have any comments or questions and some videos you might want to see in the future, anything specific that you want me to explain that you're struggling with. Again, thanks for being here. Subscribe if you're not already. Please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Ciao.